I 24M don't know how to tell my girlfriend 23F about my mental problems. I honestly don't know how to start this, but I am honestly struggling with telling my girlfriend V about my depression. I've never been diagnosed nor have I searched for any help. This is really my first time talking in depth about my thoughts and feelings. So I apologize if I'm all over the place. I'm only opening up here and now because I feel like my relationship with my girlfriend is at risk, because of me and my problems and not being able to talk about simple things. And I'm scared. V has been there way before we even started dating, and I don't want to imagine losing her, especially because of this. Like I said, I've never opened up about this, but this mainly stems from my past relationship, not who I was with or anything. My past relationship with her has no relevance besides what she had told me when I tried to take my life. I don't like talking about this, and thinking about it makes me feel shameful and disgust in my own self, if that makes sense. I don't feel comfortable and I don't even have the courage to write what I was going to do specifically, but that night I was with my ex and we had gotten into an argument, and as it always seemed to me, I was apologizing in the end for bringing up whatever issue it was. And during this my parents were gone for a week and a half out in the city to run tests on my dad because he was dying and needed a lung transplant, and they had to do a bunch of tests to make sure he could even handle the surgery and receive the lungs. But I remember driving home after the argument feeling like a failure, you know? I felt like I was messing up as a boyfriend partner and as a son, like I was letting everyone down. Because with my ex we had problems, she left me for her abusive ex, then when they ended it for the 10th time I went back to her and forgave her wholeheartedly, only for her to go back to him again months later. And I was convinced she was the woman of my dreams, the typical love story, and I felt that I owed it to her to be the perfect guy, and I felt like I was screwing everything up. Then with my pops, I'm his only son, he has 4 daughters, then me. I'm the only male in the family with our name, I'm the last one, and it makes me feel alone, and during this time we knew my pops was dying. They gave him 5 to 7 years and at this point we were at 5, and I felt like I was running out of time. Like I didn't have time to prove myself? I don't even know, I was just alone. And my poor mother, she's been battling with depression and anxiety her whole life, since she was a little girl. She was a victim and her innocence was taken from her and her family never got her help. And when she found out about me almost taking my own life, she was hysterical. She was blaming herself and apologizing to me for passing on and giving me her disease, and part of me regrets telling my parents because of the pain they went through when they found out. I'm sorry for just rambling on. But when I got home after our argument, I remember so vividly sitting down on our couch, just crying, and one of our dogs who loves attention just came up to me and laid his head down on my leg, and I tried calming myself down, and I couldn't take it anymore. Then I tried to do something that I'll never forget, no matter how hard I try to. Maybe it's punishment or a lesson, I try not to think about it. But the day after I told my girlfriend and apologized to her for what I almost did, and the calmness in her, I'm not sure how to explain it, but it just didn't feel like, even now thinking about it. She was folding her clothes and without looking at me and with no facial expression I could see, she just said okay. At the time I thought she was just processing and didn't know how to react. But a month later, the night she broke up with me, during her breakup speech she told me, when you told me about you almost taking your life, I found it insulting. This isn't verbatim. Only what I remember, but it's about what she said. But what she said next I remember clearly. She continued by saying, you aren't depressed, sad? Maybe yes, but you don't have depression. I have depression and I know you don't have it. You weren't going to take your life. If you were, you would have done it. People who are depressed don't talk about it like it's something to be known. And while she was telling me this, the guilt I had, I was ashamed and believed her. Even now I still somewhat do. But that night, I never cried like that. I was wailing, and the weirdest thing was that she was comforting me, holding me, telling me it would be okay and that it was for the best. And because that day couldn't get any worse for me, my parents were in the city again, but waiting for an approval on my dad getting the lung transplant, and 2 days prior they approved it and scheduled it for the following Monday. I kept it from my ex until the day prior to it, because her family was supportive during this and I wanted to share the news. And I did. They were all excited and wishing prayers. Then later in the night, that's when my ex broke up with me. And the following day I had to make the 3-hour drive to the city to meet my parents, and little sister who was with them the entire time. I had already told my parents of the breakup and they were furious that she did it the day prior to my dad's surgery. They already didn't like her because of her leaving me the first time and treating me like crap, so this added water to an already overflowing bucket. I'll skip the surgery talk we had prior, mainly because I didn't understand any of the terminology. But the hospital had us in an overnight room and somewhere around 2 a.m. they finished the surgery, and thankfully it was a success, and even today my father is still healthy and has only shown minor problems. But they gave us a chance to go see my father, who was obviously asleep under whatever they had him on. It was only one at a time and my mother went first. When she came back she was crying and told me she didn't know if it was a good idea to let my sister see him, who was 10 at the time. I told her I'd go look first and let her know. Walking to the room felt long and lonely. I was still thinking about my ex and I was sad and ashamed because my own father just had a major surgery, but I was thinking about a girl who never cared for me. And when I walked into the room I saw my dad. I don't think I've ever cried faster than I did then. My father was lying down, his chest still open, with a chest seal over it, and tubes coming from out his neck and mouth. He didn't look like my dad. It was him and I knew it was, but it didn't look like my dad. I tried talking to him, but I just couldn't. I just kept saying I'm sorry over and over again. Looking at him, all my memories as a kid with my dad just came into my head and I felt like he was gone, and that I messed everything up. I was so scared, thinking he was ashamed of me and that my last chance to prove myself to him was gone. The 24-hour nurse watching him calmed me down and told me they would take care of him. Walking back to the overnight room, I felt emptier. When I walked in and I went to my mom, told her my sister can't see him, not like that. She started crying and told me she didn't have the courage to tell her, because she's been asking and worrying about him. So I told my sister she couldn't see him. She started crying asking why not, and I told her dad doesn't look like dad, the way he looks, you should never see him like that, and I know he would, me if I let you. When you're older and you want to know, I'll tell you what I saw, but not now. I had to hold her while she cried. I felt anger, because I was alone. I wasn't mad at my family, just my ex. I was always there for her, whether it be from her abusive ex, or when she was held at gunpoint and was almost, even when she didn't want it, I was always there and made everything about her. The one time I was alone and needed her, she was nowhere. I had to be the man of the family and hold it together. I didn't have the choice of breaking down. And that leads to now, a few of my buddies have to go to behavioral health, which is kinda like therapy. Anyways, I was talking to my girlfriend about it, and I joked and told her about how they told me I should go to because of what I say when I'm drunk. Now I'm not really sure what I say when I'm drunk since I don't remember, but there isn't much, so I'm sure I know what it is. But I joked about it and she got serious, asking, did they tell you what you say? And I said no, cause to me it don't really matter, and she got upset, telling me that if it's something they thought was worth mentioning then I should go to behavioral health too. And I of course joked some more. I have humor like my dad, dark and fucked up. Even when he was dying he was making dark jokes about it, and even still now. But when I started making jokes she got even more mad because she hates the notion that men can't talk about their feelings cause it's not manly. She thinks if you have problems then you need to get help so nothing bad happens. Which I do agree with her, and that's not my thinking necessarily. Part of me is afraid if I open up about what I almost did that V will have the same response and reaction as my ex. Which I know she wouldn't. I just can't help but think that. I'm scared of what she'd think of me. She knows about my ex and what she put me through, minus the depression and part. She has no clue about any of that. But ever since that conversation things haven't been the same, with her and me. I'm starting to fall into this pit again, and it's making me pull from V, and I can feel something off with her too. And I'm not blaming this on her. This is all my fault. I just don't know how to tell her. It doesn't feel right, like I'm burdening her with my issues, you know. But the last 4 days have been hell. I can feel that void in my head, that just drains everything from me, and I hate it. I remember wanting to just drop everything and just leave everything behind, hoping to end whatever nightmare I was in, and I'm starting to slowly get that feeling again. I'm scared, terrified of losing her because of this. I love V more than I've ever loved, and life with her is clear, like it feels smooth and peaceful. It's just I have to go and make things rocky. I just don't know how to tell her, and I sound stupid asking, because I know there is never an easy way. I guess I needed to just write this out. I don't know. I'm sorry again if this doesn't make sense and for going and writing a whole novel. Thank you for reading this or skimming through this. Thank you.